do you guys believe that the stock market is manipulated? I am a firm believer. It took me a while before I really started to believe it. You know, I was super skeptical, but let me tell you, I definitely am a believer now. Let me see if I can shut down this screen so it gets, there we go, that's better. It's not a big glare. All right, so let's get into it. First of all, this presentation is for educational purposes, so please go ahead and do your own due diligence prior to trading. I used to have my Series 7 20 years ago, but it's no longer current, so please know that there are varying degrees of risk in trading all sorts of securities instruments, and that no past performance is indicative of future performance. All right. If you guys are new to following me, I am pretty much everywhere accessible. On Twitter, on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and my website, cjandtrade.com. And if you guys ever have any questions, I am accessible. I will go ahead and try to answer them as quickly as possible. I am a mom of 2 at home in quarantine. Luckily, they are sleeping now, so they might wake up and come and bother me. But I'll try to go ahead and organize this so that we don't have any interruptions. But you guys are always welcome to reach out to me. I'm very accessible and happy to help. I really have the mentality that it is us retail traders against the really big guys and the market manipulators who run those algos that really go ahead and control the market. So how I came to trading was really, I started off as a little kid at the breakfast table. My parents were there and they were reading the Wall Street Journal and went ahead and I started asking questions. What's a PE? What is a high? What's a low? And I was learning about stocks as a little kid at the breakfast table with the Wall Street Journal. Well, it's much different today. And so I learned the value investing, that long-term buy and hold, let your money grow, just park it, and over time it's going to grow as the market is bullish over time, with money constantly being poured in from 401ks and IRAs and everything like that. So much like we saw, it pulled back in February and then it's surged up again. We've come back about 75% from that point. So long-term investing, definitely a way to go. However, I wanted to be much more hands-on now. My second job out of college, I went to college in Memphis, Tennessee, originally from Washington, D.C., a bigger city. And once I graduated, I thought, you know what, I want to be in a bigger city. So I moved to Atlanta. I started working with Solomon Smith Barney and I got my Series 7 there. And then .com bubble crashed. I took my first ever layoff and I went to culinary school in Europe. Didn't look back. Then my second layoff in life brought me back to the trading world. New immigrant to Canada, 8 months pregnant, laid off by reduction of workforce in a union job. And so I was just out the door. And I thought, what am I going to do? Well, I had a great trade. I turned 25,000 into 250,000 in 9 months. Swing trading it. And so I thought, yeah, you know what? I can do this, but I need to be more hands-on. So I started off, I was scalping originally, then I was really intraday trading the gappers, and now I do a bit more of just intraday and swing trading. Seeing those large gaps tend to happen more on a swing trade, so you can have that bigger gain with that gap, and then the daily range tends to be smaller. Yes, we have some amazing days, but the swing trading can really be super profitable. So my question again, do you guys think that the market is manipulated? Well, President of the US sure does. When the so-called rich guys speak negatively about the market, you must always remember that some are betting big against it and make a lot of money if it goes down. And then they go positive, get big publicity and make it go up. They get you both ways. Yep, President Trump right there, May 13th. And Jim Cramer. I've never seen so many games played with stocks. And that was just recently, June 9th. Right, last week. Well, we just had the announcement on Monday. The Fed's going to be purchasing up to $250 billion in individual corporate bonds, right? So they can access $250 billion, and Powell just testified on this yesterday. Now, again, there are two major ways in which the FOMC or the Fed can go ahead and stimulate the economy. One is cutting the interest rate, right? That's going to put more money back in the pocket of the consumers. If you have something that you've taken out on a loan and you're paying less interest, that has more money in your pocket, right? So you can go ahead and you can spend it. Same thing, the other way, second way, is to go ahead and buy federally backed securities. So we've brought the interest rate so low, 0.25%, that now they're entertaining the thoughts of potentially negative interest rates, right? He's not sure about that right at the moment, saying he's seen it over in Europe and there's no concrete evidence, looking more at working on the yield curve potentially rather than just going negative rates and using that other tool of buying federally backed securities. So again, what happens when the Fed buys these securities? Simplistically, if the security is, say, a car, you have a car, and I'm going to go ahead and buy that car from you. Well, I'm going to give you money. That money, you can go out and spend it on something else. So the same thing is what they're doing. They're buying back these bonds, and then the US public has the ability to go ahead and stimulate the economy. So they're trying to do that and pump back $250 billion back into the economy. He did say that they are looking to go ahead and buy these back and hold them to term. They will likely not sell them back in unless the economy starts super booming. But at this point in time, they're looking to hold them until full term. So what did we see on Tuesday? Yep, we saw the prints. Now you might be saying, Jane, what is this? Well, these are the prints that come out, and this is from the dark pools, right? I will go into the dark pools as well. But you can see we had roughly 3.35 million shares in prints on the dark pool just this past Tuesday. So roughly $93 million was thrown back into the economy if this was buying, right? As we know, a print is simply a receipt of a transaction for that trade going through. Now, we'll go further into it, but this was very interesting that as soon as we had that announcement on Monday, the market spiked, and then we had the prints on Tuesday. So what are the dark pools? So the dark pools were set up back in the 1980s as a place for the really big guys to go ahead and have big orders filled. And when there were commissions, they were able to get lower commission costs, right? Because until just this past year, commissions were a cost of trading. So now these really big guys, you have to think about it. If they were to go ahead and they wanted to buy, like this slide right here, they wanted to go ahead and buy 1 million orders. If you saw this on the level 2, likely it would never reach that price. So if they wanted to buy it at $27.79, it would probably stop at $27.80. There would be nobody that would go ahead because they would see that there was this big order there and it would act as support. So they went ahead and they put it in the dark pool. The dark pool, in essence, would allow them to go ahead and put their order in and go ahead and have it filled. Could be 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, until their order was completely filled. That means that they would be hiding that ginormous order of 1 million shares, maybe 100 shares at a time, 200, 300, which can also be called refreshing, right? If you ever watch the level 2, you might see that there's a really big order and it's just not going anywhere, but the shares keep popping up. You have refreshing. So really before the dark pools are around, you would only really have about 3 ways to go ahead and execute an order. So they would have the floor trader execute it around the volume weighted average price. So it would be it would fluctuate. They would have different blocks of 200,000, right? Or they could sell it in very small amounts, but it was never available to them to go ahead and have this large block print where they could get an amazing fill. And it also coincidentally happened closely to the time of NASDAQ with the high frequency trading electronic trading system. So how did I discover the dark pool? Well, I first discovered it when I started writing my book, FMJ, Trust, Transition, and Trade, which happens to be all about female traders. So I was interviewing female traders from 5 months to 25 years experience. And that is when I met Stephanie Kierman, the stock whisperer. And I interviewed her, much like Momo Wizards and Market Wizards. I interviewed her, and that was my first taste of the dark pool. And she'd been doing this since the 80s, really. And so I was like, oh, that really piques my interest. Then I went on and I had my Modern Trader Summit that I host annually. Fortunately, not this year with COVID, but it was an eye-opening scenario to see a presentation much like this today, where I saw the proof that the market is really manipulated. I mean, when you have the president, you've got Jim Cramer, who's on TV every day, they're all saying this is manipulated. Kind of makes you wonder, right? It piques your interest. So who are the people that trade in the dark pool? Like I said, it's the big hedge fund guys, the ones that have billions of dollars. I showed you that one example of the government print where that is $93 million position from those 3 trades, roughly 3.3 million. Well, we see these prints every single day. Some crazy ones just came in that there's going to be a big, massive move in the market. Not sure exactly what direction, but I'll show you those prints coming up at the end. So make sure you stay tuned. All right, so we've got these really big guys that they want to go ahead and place their trades. And we've got Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, Bill Ackman, some big names. You know, not just them, a lot more are using the dark pools. Well, how does it work, right? I mentioned those are the prints. We don't know exactly which direction they are because no matter what, now whether this could be a buyer or a seller, right? For this example, it's going to be 1 million shares to buy Disney, right? At $100. Well, you have the buyer that has that order there, and then you have all these little guppies, the retail sellers, right? And they're sitting there, they're like, uh-oh, bad news, Netflix is coming in the market, you know, X, Y, and Z, they had to close down their parks, so we're gonna go ahead and sell our shares. Well, when we see a 1 million print, we know there's always one big whale, and then there's lots of little guppies on the other side of that. Those are many times the retail traders, right? And then these guys that have that big print are looking for a big move. They're not looking for 20, 30, 40 cents. They're looking for a couple dollar range movement, sometimes even 10, 15. You know, if we're looking at one on Tesla, it could be a $200 move. So you always have a big fish, that whale, on one side, and then you have lots of little guppies on the other side. Now, sometimes people say, well, Jane, do you see this on other markets, or do you see this on futures or Forex? We see this on the securities, the U.S. Securities Exchange. It doesn't mean that it doesn't happen elsewhere. It's just that's what we have access to, is seeing it on the U.S. securities. Can you go ahead and trade futures off of this information? Sure, you definitely can. Okay. I'm looking to see if there's a question. No, I thought there was a question. How come? Where would I go to learn about the dark pool? How come? I will tell you that. It's going to come at the end, right? I'm going to show you everywhere where I do work. I help educate people about the dark pools. Just did a presentation today talking about, we also put it for people that want to learn how to trade as well as learn how to trade around the dark pool. So we don't take anything for granted, make sure everybody has a great foundation at once. So I was talking about swing trading versus day trading, PDT role today, really help you to educate. All right, moving forward, where do we track the dark pools? Well, we get to see where the big guys are laying their position, right? And why do we track it? We want to go ahead and follow these really big prints. You want to go to sleep with the prints on your back, right? So if they were selling, you want those prints above you. If they were buying, you want those prints below you, right? Now, I've got this chart up. You're like, Jane, great. Here we had the SPY all the way at the bottom, 2018. And coincidentally, Barron's also put out, hey, the end of NASDAQ, the run is over. Yep, that's what they said. And then up here, this market cannot stop, right? Why do you think they were saying that, right? They have to use that reverse psychology to go ahead and get the retail trader to do just the opposite of what they want. All the news saying this market's going to continue forever. We actually had Fed Kester from Texas today saying it's going to take a lot longer for the market, or excuse me, it's going to take a lot longer for the economy to go ahead and see the levels that it had back in February. So kind of a negative sentiment being put out. But when we see negative, many times like back here, we see positive print, right? These prints came in, we had 12.2 million on December 24th of 2018, 26.9 million on December 26th, and then we surged up, right? We surged all the way up to January of 2020. Mid-January 2020, we started to see some spell prints, right? 21 million, 18 million, 11 million on the 17th, 20th, and 21st. And then that was 16.9 million. Why was it pertinent? Because then we pulled back. You guys saw that. Again, end of February, we're up at the top. Look at this, 55 million. Where are we in relation to this right now? Are we above that 55 million way back in February? Right? They're done with that print for the moment. And then February 27th, 311.56. Hold on, let me go ahead and see. Right now, where are we on the SPY? Trying to pull it right here. 311.73. We're above these two areas for right now. So knowing that kind of changes your perspective, right? You see, wow, the big guys, they laid their groundwork back in February before they dropped the market with 75 million shares. Let's do that really quickly. 75 million shares. Well, let's do 20 times 311 would be $622 million, right? And then 55 times 297, $16.33 billion, right? To give you an example of the size and power that comes from these prints. You guys know what happened after this, right? We went forward and we had a big drop, right? We saw the prints here, it pulled back, hit this trend line. Saw the prints here, pulled back, hit this trend line, right? We saw them laying the prints. We saw it coming. We weren't sure whether it was buying or selling at that time, but very shortly after, once we broke below the levels right here, yep, you better believe we were bearish and we were ready. Well, come March 17th, right back here, we came down and we hit 296. What did we see? Or excuse me, even lower. This is March 17th. Look at all of these prints we saw. Well, as soon as we held above it, what do we think that is? We're above those prints. Yep, bullish, right? We saw them buying. Now, of course, the news at that time was not positive. So it's best to go ahead, trade with earmuffs. When you're a day trader or a trader in general, being technically tied to the chart is going to give you profit. You follow follow the charts and the prints in our case, and stay on the right side of the prints, and you will profit. Do not get greedy. If you put on a strangle in relation to these prints with options, you might say, what the heck is that? I'll explain that a little bit. Go ahead and just add to the right side. Sometimes we have a big print, and what will happen is they'll go ahead and they'll splash it. So much like here, they weren't done yet, right? We started to see the prints, but they took it down, then they took it up and added even more. And then they dropped it down. So it's not always immediate when we see a print. It's not going to necessarily be today. It could be in 3 days. It could be in a week. Here we saw the prints. Yep, it came down, hit the 50 simple moving average. We bounced, and then they took it up to a new high, right? Many times when there's a crash or correction, you do see a new high set before it gets taken down. And I'm sure you guys are wondering what's going on today with prints, right? So this is what we saw in March. The prints relevant today. This just happened on Friday, okay? We had 2.5 million. Let's do the math. 2.5 times 2 times 229. We'll call it 0.88. $574 million position on Facebook. Where do you want to be? Right? Where are we now? We'll look at that. We also got VXX prints, right? The fear indicator. We also got USMV. This is volatility, right? So where are we in relation to all of these prints? This green line is that top print, 230.93. You guys see where we are? We're above it right now. As long as we stay above that, bullish, right? Gone up, we hit up here, pulled back to the moving averages. Many times it will go ahead and it will pull back. It's kind of like a bell curve, right? You have that bell curve, and as soon as it gets far extended away, like right here, far extended away, it retracts back, right? So it's going to go out to the outer edge. It goes back to that midline, the moving averages. Goes back out, and then it retracts back in. So up here, high risk as a long potentially. Down here, low risk, right? So up here, higher risk, pulls back, right? Higher risk, pulls back. Now we're slowly, let's see, where are we on Facebook right now? So Facebook, we're hanging out right at 235.43. So we've come up a little bit. And you can see that with these prints, we saw it come in here. We were prepared. I swung it in a call on Friday. Nice Monday morning, right? So, or excuse me, yeah, that was Monday, right? No, Tuesday, excuse me. Swung it here. First I went short, and then I closed my position and bought off of the 21 EMA, and then swung it up overnight onto Tuesday morning. So seeing what the power of these prints can do, and knowing now that the market is manipulated, can really change your trading to be 75 to 80% profitable with amazing profits, because you see what the big guys with billions of dollars are doing, right? 500 million share position on Amazon, excuse me, on Facebook. Why wouldn't you follow it, right? We don't get these every day, but when we do, it's very influential. Facebook is not one we see every day. SPY we usually see every day. You know, things like Bank of America we'll see fairly often. We'll see gold prints that will happen. We saw some prints on X today, right? So when we start to see these prints, sometimes it will move that day, but usually it will wait. Like the example when I said sometimes it will splash. We saw the prints here, and then it dropped down, and then it surged up above. What happened? They weren't done. They were greedy. They wanted to go ahead and buy it even cheaper. So they took it down a little bit, and then they ripped it higher. All right. Now, we also had those VXX prints, right? VXX, you guys know VIX, fear, VXX as well, short-term future. So right now we had this downward trend that drew, and we've been holding below this trend for now. What happened on the 16th, or 15th, excuse me? We went ahead and saw all of those prints. Let's go back to them. Roughly 2 million in VXX. Not every day that we're going to see that, right? That's more than usual. When you start to follow the dark pools, you can see what is normal and what is abnormal as far as the prints are concerned. Oh. sorry, I'm just reading the chats right here, the questions. Jane, can we have your email addresses again, please? Yeah, so easiest is jane@cjanetrade.com. Send to all. There we go. So you guys can always email me. Like I said, I'll usually get back to them at the end of the night because during the day I am with my little ones now in quarantine. So I will answer you and I will usually get back to you then. Let me go back and see questions, other questions. Okay, so we got Eden's question there. And I got, where would you learn about the dark pool? We're coming up to that. Is your work insightful lessons tradable? How do we get to follow the moves and capitalize on the trades, James? Yep, I'm gonna show you that in just a second. And we can't see your charts. Are we supposed to? The charts on the screen, or I was just looking, I flipped in the background. I can pull up the live charts in just a second. Actually, I can go ahead and do that now. So let me do this. Probably actually easier. So we've got Facebook right here. And again, we have those prints that are right here, right? So many times you'll get to know the personality of a stock too. Here we've got the 20 simple moving average that it bounced off of. And then here we have the 15 EMA that it bounced off of. Well, here they came and they consolidated together. So many times once you have that consolidation that happens, it's a position that's being laid, right? We saw this consolidation. What happened? We saw a major print. They were going ahead and they were creating that print, and then they took it higher as of right now. So is it going to go down below? Yeah, that could have definitely been selling. We could still possibly be in a splash zone, but you can make money on either side of it. Like I made money when it dropped down, when it closed below the prints on Friday, I opened up a put and I swung that overnight. Then closed it out at open. When the market gives you a gift, you lock that profit. Don't get stubborn, don't get greedy, right? You won't go broke in the stock market taking profits. Then you get in, potentially as a retracement back up here. Well, guess what? We blew right through it. Amazing, right? We went ahead and we blew above those levels. I'm bullish, right? I'm not, no thinking, right? We're above the prints. These big guys have taken it up above those prints. We splashed below it. Right now, I'm bullish on Facebook. And I've given you $550 million reason why, right? Well, let's go look at that VXX print, right? VXX, I hit VXC, excuse me. What are the best ETFs or symbols do you find that on the dark pool to use? Thank you. So with the dark pool, they are the ones that choose, right? We really go ahead and we follow it. It's also going to depend. Sometimes they will be sneaky. Sometimes they'll be sneaky in the sense that maybe it's an insider. I need no information about earnings, right? Maybe it could be something like an insider from Verizon. Just an example, no concrete evidence here. That maybe it's an insider from Verizon. They know what's going to happen potentially with 5G. So maybe they're going to go ahead and they're going to buy XLC, the communications ETF, because Verizon is a big holding of that. Or if we even go here, you could see ETF Database.com, right? And you want to say, okay, well, we know that Verizon's got earnings coming up. We can pull up Verizon, easy. And it's going to take a second here, ETFs with exposure to Verizon. I love this one. So you can say, oh, wow, even IYZ, 20% Verizon. You know, maybe that would be a good one. I'm not sure. Many times we will trade options and strangle it, like I mentioned. So say we got, or even Vox, Vanguard Communication Services. We get that too. And I don't know, not all ETFs have options. But say, for example, we got a print on XLC. Verizon is having potentially a earnings announcement coming out. You can also click on the holdings and it will show you which ones. So like right now, wouldn't have been surprised if we had XLC prints, and now we have Facebook prints because Facebook is 21% of it, right? So maybe someone from Facebook knew something's going to happen, that maybe the government's going to give them a major fine and they anticipate it to drop. Or maybe they're going to announce that they had incredible earnings because of COVID-19 and everybody was paying for more advertising to reach people through the internet, right? We don't know. All we know is there was a print. So could you strangle it? Strangle meaning I could go ahead and buy an out of the money put and an out of the money call because I know there's going to be a big move. And I'm going to give it some time. Maybe give it 3 weeks, right? Because many times within 3 weeks, it will go ahead and make a big move. So you go ahead, you buy one. Usually it's better to buy two on each side. Then it goes ahead, it starts to move. You can add to that correct side. And then next thing you know, you're locking in some amazing profits. You could have, you know, a 20-cent call, in this case, because we saw that it went up, could turn into $200. It could turn into $400, $500, based on the fact that we knew that there was going to be a big move, but we didn't know what direction, and we gave it a little bit of time. So as far as the best ETFs, we get prints on all sorts of symbols, all sorts of ETFs. It's a matter of really looking at the ones. It's better to trade them with small spreads, the ones that don't have the best options, because we do trade a lot of options, with wider spreads or, you know, nickel spreads, or they might only have monthlies instead of weeklies, aren't necessarily the best, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to provide a profit. It just means that it could be more difficult to get in and out as an option. It could still be great. You know, there are some that we get like USMB, which I will show you, that it doesn't have a lot of daily volume. So I wouldn't necessarily want to trade that, but I could use it as a tool. Just like with VXX, right? VXX, we had all of these prints. I would not recommend VXX. However, seeing these prints as well as other prints that we've had coming in makes you go, aha, there's going to be a big move. I don't know if it's going to be a drop in the market or a rip in the market, but what I can tell you is that it's going to be a big move because we're getting unusual prints. Now, what I can tell you, and technically, seeing this is right now we are below these prints, right? We've gone up, we tested it once here, the sellers took it down. Tested it here again, the sellers took it down. And tested it here, and again, took it down. So is it going to break above this? Sure, it definitely could. It could definitely break above. But for now, we are below it. So the confidence of the US public is increasing at the moment. Now, we also see, okay, let's look at the SPY right now. What's going on with the SPY? Well, all these orange lines are alerts. Sorry, I wish I could change the color, but can't. You know, where people look at this and they think, oh, well, we've come down, right? We hit the 200 simple moving average and we bounced, and now we're back above. We're above the 20, we're above the 15 EMA, and we just had a 4 cross over the 8 to the upside on the EMAs right here. So yes, we could be moving to the upside potentially. Right now, bullish on the SPY until we start to see major prints, and this is the reason why. For 3 weeks, they traded it sideways. Technically, there was a consolidation at this point in the chart, and we are above that. So unless they were to break it back down, they could bounce it off of this 294 for sure. If they were to break down below 278, we would be definitely bearish again, full on bears, right? Here, we saw these big prints. We closed below, boom, had on some protection, dropped it down, right? Now, again, you guys saw that slide from February, 311 and 297, right? 311 and, hold on, let's go backwards. Yeah, 297 and 311. So, oh, I want to go to my chart. Looking for my chart in the slides. It's not going to work. Okay. So, what happened to be pretty much the high right here? Roughly 298, right? Maybe they were exiting that short for such a large position. And now we're up above that 311 as well. So, right as they had the two big prints here and here, we're above all of that. So could we be going up? Yeah. The news and the economy from what everybody's talking about is awful. However, the market is irrational. The market is always going to be irrational, and it will stay longer. It will stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent as a short. So we could have a massive melt up. We could go back and we could say, look, we're going to have a massive melt up. We're going to test 325, potentially 340. Come on up here. We might even go up to 360 before we start to see earnings season take it down. There's no guarantees, but as long as we are above major prints, we have to be bullish. When we go below, we have to be bearish. So just like VXX, right? Right now, it's below. We're above those big levels from the past on the SPY. So it's more concrete evidence when you start to see a massive $55 billion position, I think it was. I don't want to be on the wrong side of that. Do you? We also have, what was it, USMV? Yeah, this just came in yesterday. Abnormal print, right? Now, they took it lower today, and they've bounced it up with the volatility. So this is very similar chart to the SPY, right? It could bounce back up. It could rip higher. It could go lower, but we're watching it. It's still super, super fresh. The Facebook one, more current, had more movement. Are they done moving it? If it's to the bullish side and they're going to continue to the up, in my opinion, no. Right? And when we start to see big prints on Microsoft and Apple, let's go right over here. SPY holdings, right? These are the top holdings. So when we start to see Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, we usually don't get million share prints on Amazon, but except for maybe when Bezos is selling and he might already have a Form 4 set up. But coincidentally, he sold in February, and what happened to the market? Right? So we see the prints, and then 3 days later, usually the Form 4 comes out. We will typically see the print before the Form 4, and we're ready to go ahead and take a movement prior to hearing the news. And that's it. The news is always reporting, right? You think about it, it's reporting after the fact. The move has already happened. We see the prints first. The people that have the insider information go ahead and act on it first. They don't necessarily, like I said, buy the stock. They could buy an ETF in relation to it. Or they might tell, hey, you know, maybe Bezos has told something to his new lover. Hey, honey, guess what? This is what's going on. We're going to acquire this company now. This is going to boost the stock. Maybe you buy some options, right? But we don't look at abnormal options activity because there's so many different ways to trade options. There's really only two with the stock, right? It's either going up or it's going down. You've got butterflies, you've got iron condors, you've got all sorts of different option trades that we don't pay attention to the unusual options. We pay attention to the print, and easy. Try to keep it really easy, simple. Bullish above, bearish below. Okay, let me go back here. All right, so we've had the charts. Now, how can you guys trade around the dark pools? I know you guys have had this question. I'm finally getting to it for you, right? Well, newer traders, if you're newer to trading or you want to trade around the dark pool, you can come to the training pit. And that is going to be at the darkpools.com. right? So you can come there, or if you feel like you might have learned how to trade properly around them with the presentation today, you could do a little bit of self-study. You could play around with it. I would suggest paper trading first because it is a newer strategy. And if it doesn't work, come on over to the training pit with the darkpool app, the trading app. And then there's also the darkpool 70 live hour trading bootcamp that happens every quarter. I have to update this. The next one's actually August 3rd. You can see this one just passed. So August 3rd is going to be the next one. It's the first week is full 35 hours intense day trading. And then the second week is 35 hours intense swing trading with 1 week off in between because it's so intense and so much information. You could go in as a brand new trader and come out, still need to practice, but you'll have all the tools you need to be profitable, especially profitable trading around the dark pools. And then finally, the final step, if you choose to, is joining the Java Pit after being a boot camp graduate, which is where I am every single day. And I also teach twice a week in the training pit as well. So let me see if we have some more questions. When will the webinar actually begin? Is trading at extreme high PEs any concern? We don't really use that. So, it looks like maybe I have old questions that I'm going to. Anna, do you see any?
Let me check.
If there's any new ones that I didn't get to. Or if you guys have any other questions, feel free to go ahead and put them in. Let's see, are we using options for max profit? Is that the last one that you see? Armando, as far as you could trade equities for sure, it's just that you can have such amazing returns with the options that you could have, you could have a $20 option, like I said, turn into 400, and you're not having to put that capital at risk. So looking at it, you want to go ahead and minimize that risk first, right? As a trader, that's number one in calculating your trading plan is your risk management. So when you're able to do that and look at it and see, hey, I've got minimal risk, amazing reward, that's what we look at. That's why we go ahead and we do a fair amount of options. Of course, you can go ahead and take this information. You could buy 200 shares of Facebook, it moves $5, you've made $1,000, right? But you have to have all that capital also to go ahead and be able to capitalize on that move. We also see it on lower price stocks. Like I said, we saw it on X today. So you could go ahead and trade it with a lower price stock and buy more shares. I'm just putting that up so you guys can see my contact information if you guys ever want to reach out or you have any questions. Also, on my website, I do a daily watch list as well. And if you use Investor, you will get 20% off my daily watch list. So Investor promo code at cjandtrade.com. There we go. So if you guys want my watch list as well, it's not solely based around the dark pool. However, some stocks, they are basically the gappers and it is more for day trading. Sometimes you could use it for a swing trade. And I'm also doing a free weekly watch list on Sundays on my YouTube channel, roughly around 1:30. If you guys want to come on over and join me there, you guys can come and ask any sort of questions. You guys can see I'm an open book. I'm really willing to help others. Like I said, I came to day trading as 8 months pregnant and laid off. It was once my daughter was born, she was 6 months old, I really started studying it intensely. So I've walked in your shoes if anybody there is laid off, and I can sympathize with you in this time of people that are losing their jobs. Any other questions? Anna, do you see any questions there? I feel like I see just blue questions now.
I can see the question from member Michael, and then these are newish. And Armando asking, how about mini futures? Do we learn about that too?
With the futures, like I said, we don't see the prints on the futures. However, the tools that we do use to trade for profit target on our day trades work amazingly for futures as well. So it can definitely help you learn to trade with the futures. And the new, there is the new small exchange with the micro futures now, or mini futures, and it would still work for those. The same tools that we use, you could use those levels for those as well. So it would be, if you want to concentrate on, like many times you will see, hold on, let's see if I can pull it up for you. If I have it open. No, I closed it down already. I did have the whispers for today, where we also get our daily whispers for stock whispers of the different levels to look for, the different targets, and you're able to go ahead and see, hey, this is a great place to go ahead and take profit. Why? Because many times computers are set up to buy or sell on that level, and you can go ahead, you could exit part of your position there. Go ahead and lock that profit so that you're able to go ahead and stay in the trade. As we like to say, you don't have exititis. If you go ahead and you take profit on 75%, let that last quarter go. Put a stop back at entry. Many times it'll make more money than that original 75%. And you're not exiting the trade 100%. So you are still happy if it's moving, but you're not losing in the process.
The next question would be, what percentage of trading capital do you put at risk on a trade?
You know what? It's going to be very, very minimal, because most of the trades that we are setting up are going to be like an options trade that's usually $30 to $40 per option. And that can easily flip right over. You make 100% profit in a day, or you can practice with very, very little, or practice on paper first. So sometimes we'll be getting into options that are 10, 11 cents, and it turns into $100, $200. It depends on that particular option strike that you're looking at, how far out and how big the move is. But you can do it with very small costs or very small capital input. And then once that capital starts to grow, you can start growing your position sizes. So instead of potentially buying 2 contracts, you could go ahead and buy 4 contracts, and then you go up to 6 contracts. You also have to see what risk you are willing to sleep with at night. What, if it goes against you, it's going to look like a bigger loss because it's a larger number of contracts, equal to roughly 600 shares versus 200 shares.
Another question from Dan. Jane, any way to tell which way a stock will go using the print data?
No. Yeah. Oh, is there more to it?
And one more, what's the promo code once again?
Oh yeah, investors is the promo code. I put it in the chat. Did it not go in the chat? I tried to.
Nope, but I will do that for you.
Investors send to all. I thought I did. Maybe I sent it to everybody. Well, you've got it now. So investors at cjandtrade.com. And then there's no way to tell right off the bat. Some people will say, you see a red print, that means that they were selling, or you see a buy print, so that was buying. No, we can only tell after the fact with the price movement. Anybody that can tell you they know definitively, they don't know, unless they're the person putting in that trade. Really, they can't tell you one way or the other, because there's just no way to tell, basically, because there's always somebody on the other side of the trade, and you don't know if they were buying or selling. They could have sold on the bid, or they could have bought on the offer. We don't know.
Okay, great. I don't see any more questions coming. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was great.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for having me again, and thank you guys for attending. Again, if you guys ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You guys can see right here, Jane at cjandtrade.com or Jane at thedarkpools.com. And I'm really happy to help and would love to help teach you guys how to profit around the dark pool. It really changed my viewpoint on the market and changed the profit line as well.
Once again, thanks so much and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. You too, honey. Bye-bye.